A disorder as well as well, you know, it's likely, but you know, it's still, yeah, she just basically needs a single cycle against the bosses in order to take them out. Now this team is a lot of fun for some reason. I just find Lighter to be such a fun character for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just his super fast flurry of punches and how fast he just goes in and punches your enemies' faces. Lighter's a very satisfying character to use. But yeah, so just like that, bam, right? He just punches the enemy's face. But yeah, massive ice buffs along with increased.
The hype for Miyabi is at an all-time high, so let's try to keep things grounded in this balanced review of the highly anticipated character, as we always do on the channel. 3 pros, 3 cons, and 1 food for thought if you stick around to the end. Now let's jump into pro number 1. If there was a 6-star character or a double S rank, if there was a rarity higher than S rank, Miyabi probably would fit firmly there as a notch above all other damage dealers in the game. The clips in this video are just her base copy and her signature. Without any doubt in my mind, she is the best in class damage dealer by miles. She has close to the amount of movement speed as Ellen, Jane Doe's light dodge adrenaline for you, and Zhu Yuan's burst style to do heavy damage in a short window of time if you wanted to, and probably all their damage put together. Okay, I'm just joking on the last part, but the clips don't exaggerate, so I'll let them do the talking as we go through the rest of this video. One of the biggest things we need right now is really a damage dealer with not only good damage, but also great AoE, and at the same time also some sort of crowd control. Miyabi has all of them. That is crazy good from the rest of the pack. The hardest part about this review, honestly, is trying to balance it out with cons that match up to her pros, but I'll try, and let's match that with con number 1. In my opinion, her biggest con about Miyabi. It lies not with her abilities, but really that the W engine roster we currently have for Anomaly is very limiting. She wants crit rate substats since she converts it over to Anomaly Mastery 1:1, which is crazy. Unfortunately, of course, not many Anomaly gear currently has crit rate. A huge tip that I have for any of you who are struggling in this aspect, maybe not in signature engine pullers, is to look for attack W engines. For example, like Neko Mata's signature, which is a standard W engine. But the thing that honestly scares me is this second con, which is maybe more of my long-term mindset playing devil's advocate here. DPS characters tend to have a shorter lifespan than support characters, defensive characters in general. Since it's easier to sell you like a flashy character that does 1 million damage rather than a support character that protects you for 1 million damage, meaning Poyoverse as a company and gacha games are, and I'll share something special as well. Con number 3. Miyabi is not Unga Bunga. You do need to consider rotations. When Anomaly is about to proc, has it been proc recently, when to rotate, your buff up times, your stacks, and even split scaling builds need to be solidified before you start to see her pop off like the showcases that we are showing right now. For those lazy to like do homework and wondering why their Miyabi does no damage at all, the easiest way to solve this is just by subscribing and watching our guide videos, which you already have out on the channel, where we spoon feed you all the information that we've done already. There are simpler characters to play.
Being the probably most anticipated unit since the very first beta, Hoyo has finally blessed us and cursed our wallets because our favorite office fox Void Hunter girl Miyabi is finally here, and she effectively brings with her a new element called Frost. Unfortunately, or fortunately depending on Her basic 5, special and dash attack connect into her basic 2. Her ultimate, enhanced basic attacks, EX special and EX special follow-up all connect into basic 3. Her quick assist and dodge counter into basic 4, and that becomes relevant when looking at her Mindscape 2 later on. Her assist follow-up and chain connect into basic 1, so they are honestly not really that worth talking about. When we enter battle, we have two possibilities on how we can start off, and the one we choose depends honestly on our team. The first one being dash attack into basic 2 and 3 into EX special into basic 3, 4 and 5 again. Unfortunately for us, a simple EX special into basic 3, 4 and 5 will leave us with just slightly not enough anomaly, at least against an elite enemy, so we have to make up for that by using our dash into basic 2 and 3. An alternative would be EX special into basic 3 and 4 and 5 into basic 2 and 3, and at this point we can also honestly just finish the basic chain yet again. Both versions will be enough to trigger Frostbite again against an, elite enemy, which then will grant us 1 stack with the 2 stacks gained from her EX special, and we are at 6 stacks. However, if we play her with Lycon or Sukaku, which have a 4-piece Freedom Blues equipped however, a simple EX special into basic 3, 4 and 5 will honestly be enough. In this case, we start off with Lycon or Sukaku for that matter, use their EX special, then proceed to Miyabi EX special into basic 3, 4 and 5. The reason this works is because Ice and Frost are treated as the same element, and spoiler, but that is also the reason why Lycon is a very good teammate for her. He provides some necessary days as well as a Ice Red Thread and can use Freedom Blues to help out with exactly this specific breakpoint, which becomes even more important after the first Frost anomaly has been procced. Anyway, there is only one way to get 2 enhanced basics level 3 into the enemy stun window, and the only way we can accomplish that is by triggering the stun using her enhanced basic 3. So we start off with her enhanced basic 3, trigger the chain, into the team chains, into her ultimate, into EX special, then again enhanced basic level 3. Okay, now is the time. Let's talk about her weapons, because they honestly don't look great. We have an anomaly character who wants crit, and outside of her signature, that does not exist. This is also reflected in her weapon choices with massive differences. Her next best choice is an R5 fusion compiler, which quite frankly most people will not have. And that means all other choices are close to each other, but about 20% worse than her signature. The reason here being that her signature gives crit rate, which, as we established before, is absolutely mandatory for her rotations, which means we have to sacrifice crit damage and attack percent in substats to make up for that when looking at all other weapons. In fact, without her signature, we are looking at least. And this is the time where we have to talk about something important. The fact that you are probably not subscribed and these videos take a long time to make, yada yada, please sub. Think of which I consider at least playable. Lycon is incredible due to him providing days and being able to carry a 4-piece Freedom Blues, which helps her with her build up. If you do not have Lycon, Sukaku can take the role of the Freedom Blues holder, and that also makes Sukaku my preferred pick over Lucy in a Miyabi Piper team. Funnily enough, the best clear times I got have been using Yanagi and Nicole. Lighter and Lucy also work surprisingly well simply due to the insane amount of raw stats provided, and the original team of Miyabi, Yanagi, Lycon is a good choice as well. Burness and Lucy work too, but are a better choice after Miyabi's M2, as we can now reliably on-field her while actually also doing something as well, which this team usually struggles with. I mean, who do you want to on-field? Lucy, I guess. Yeah, so basically this means she actually has quite a lot of teams and is not necessarily reliant on Yanagi, even though Yanagi to me still feels like her best teammate. Lastly, I want to give a special shout out to Miyabi, Yanagi and Burness. That team has been my favorite from playing and has been clearing the last Shiyu in about 1 minute, and that's with a crit Burness, cause I refuse to play, AP Burness. Also a small note to Lucy and Burness, going for anomaly much better, and Yanagi is still her best teammate. She shines by far the most in Yanagi teams, but she is not required for Miyabi to be playable. Her signature is really good and, at least in my opinion, somewhat-ish required in terms of her damage potential. She also requires a lot of crit rate to get a smooth rotation, which means she is very reliant on a good crit rate, which makes building her honestly not very easy, especially since she really wants her new puts her skill floor somewhere in the middle. Otherwise, her damage is good, she is very fun to play, and the VFX are fantastic. At least if you care about that. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, join the Discord so I can answer your questions. Personally,
steal a hook stitch from someone else, but it doesn't work off cages, so they would need to do this at the perfect time, and they can easily put themselves in danger. And I think against this killer, unhooking in front of him, it can be quite dangerous as well. So even that is a little bit difficult to pull off, not to mention the fact that many teams will not have this perk, will not even bother using it. So against those teams, many of their hook related perks will not work straight up. So yeah, he's very, very good at dealing with this. Now, his add-ons, since one of the last tier lists, have actually improved a little bit. He has a mangled add-on, which he didn't have before. Some of his add-ons that used to be good, like the range add-ons, are still fine. He has not had a lot of changes, and they've tweaked a few others. Nothing huge. He doesn't get insanely boosted by add-ons like Plague does, but especially range and power duration can be okay. So overall, a killer that thrives based on his ability to tunnel one person off. And even if you don't play like that, if your survivors are not on point, the fact that you can get downed anywhere pretty much is a pretty big deal and justifies him being this high up. Next up, we have the Oni. The Oni is possibly, out of all the killers that we've talked about so far, the slowest one at the beginning. He starts out like a normal killer, and it needs to get blood by hitting survivors from healthy to injured. He also gets blood while these injured survivors go around the map and they drop blood orbs. And also, if you force him to do certain actions or run a...
What? You said that you got her? I don't know what. Wait, what? You were playing for Harimasa? Why? Right, why would you pay for his weapon? Yanage, so ugly character. What? It's an ugly male character. Listen, what are you talking about? Rozsměvnivý.
Protože teďka přišel později.
No jenom měla by se podívat na Garden of Sinners. City sincere syrowi usikacji kuracji celskiej No to, že jo, tak pak to bude psát špatně v matice, tak bych zakázal češtinu. Yeah, but... What? No, guys, they shouldn't make male characters. Why, person? What? Aha.
あんたが邪悪2本。
Díval jsi na to, na tu moji objednávku, kterou jsem napadl.
Na to 20 korun. Hej! To bude zpráva. Tam to je moc...
To nevím, teď.
a certain add-on, which is quite popular, you get more blood and you can get into your power pretty quickly. Once you get into your power, you get approximately 45 seconds of goodiness. More if you have add-ons that extend the duration. During those 45-ish seconds, you can go nuts. You basically become a Billy that can go around the map really quickly, break through barricades like pallets or breakable walls really quickly, get insta-down, and even get multiple insta-downs if survivors are somehow corralled into getting close together. You can, you know, it's a little bit difficult to do that. Keep in mind, every time you down a survivor, you lose a little bit of your power, so he's not as insane at cons, like he's not as ready on command as a killer like Blight or Billy, but he's arguably stronger than even those two when he has his power. Some killers also become, some Oni players also become really good at using his speed add-ons and learning his flicks. If you've seen a good Oni, they can sometimes chase you around something and do a 180 flick with their insta-down demon fury mode. So that's pretty scary and nothing preventing you from learning that if you want to do that. So yeah. You have a killer that, much like Billy, can turn games on a dime. Yeah, it's true that the game starts out a little bit slow, but now you have more perks than ever to slow down the game passively and get those cheeky hits on people. And for the overwhelming majority of matches, the fact that you don't start out super strong is completely fine, because even the best survivors are caught off guard, and normally you have a choice of who to chase. So it's really not a huge deal. It is, however, a little bit of a weakness. Every now and then you will play Oni on a map like the game, where even his power can be stalled by just dropping repeatedly save and save pallets. In those maps, you will need to play a bit more strategically and maybe lock down some gens, but even in those, you still are likely to win if you're a really good Oni. He is one of the killers that has changed the least, I would say. You might notice that compared to some previous tier lists, he has dropped down a little bit. One of the reasons is because other killers have been dropped down, and another is that he has lost access to one of the most disgusting perks that he had some time ago. He had a perk called Ultimate Weapon from the Xenomorph, which allowed him to basically go around the map and make people scream everywhere, and then he would just pick them off one by one. It was a very disgusting perk that was particularly good on the S tier killers and very good on him as well. This perk has been reworked and now doesn't do that effect, so you don't have such a good aggressive anti-stealth perk. But guess what? Perks like Distortion and stealth perks like Calm Spirit are now less popular than a few months ago, so you probably won't need them anyway. Another killer that has dropped off a little bit in the tier list is Wesker. Now, part of this, I think, comes down to the fact that survivors have just learned the counterplay to Wesker. This is a killer that has a little bit of everything, right? Has some insta-down, we'll get there, some mobility, a little bit of utility with a bigger turret radius that can inflict some perks on people like that, although it doesn't play a huge role typically. A little bit of utility because you can vault pallets and windows, and sometimes that can give you an advantage. For example, if you follow a survivor out of a main building and they vault a window, you can vault it after them and you recover mid-fall. So vaulting good windows against Wesker can actually backfire sometimes. Some nasty add-ons here or there that allow you to toss survivors and, you know, catch them quickly afterwards. So a little bit of utility here and there. Overall, survivors have gotten a little bit better at playing against him, which contributes towards making him a little bit less of a threat over time. And even though he did get a shorter cooldown buff, which was nice, he also got a significant nerf, which is the main reason for his drop. He no longer inflicts a 8% slowdown. I think it was 8%. Yeah, basically, whenever you were fully infected against Wesker, you were 8% slower. This, if you ever played against Wesker like this, you will remember it. This was a significant amount. Any survivor, should be honey, no digging the carpet. Any survivor that was fully infected against Wesker would be on a really tough mission to last even 10 seconds or 20 seconds in chase. Unless you had an incredibly good pallet, he is going to catch you. Any loop on anything, he will catch you. So that was very oppressive. And another thing that is worth remembering is that when you became unhooked, the infection was paused at 50%. So one of the things that Wesker could do very well a few patches ago was to tunnel people off hook. If you were tunnel off the hook, you don't have time to heal, you don't have time to use the spray to disinfect. So that means that you will become insta-downable, even if you have adrenaline or second win or get healed by further people or whatever. Even if you somehow get a magical heal mid-chase, you will become insta-downable to his power, and you will become 8% slower. Both of these things are now far less of an effect. The slowdown is only 4%, which is a significant thing, but not as oppressive as 8%. And when you come out of a hook, it now starts your infection at 1%, which means it would, I don't remember from the top of my head, but you can pretty much run for a whole minute at least before getting fully infected, which means that he no longer has the incredible pressure that he once had on you. So because he is less good at tunneling, and tunneling in general has become less effective as a result of some perks being introduced, and hook stages last longer as well, which gives survivors more time to bring a spray to an unhook. All of these things have hurt Wesker a tiny little bit, but he's still a solid A-tier killer with decent chase potential, decent potential to injure multiple survivors during unhooks and altruism, and even decent potential to sometimes get not quite instant downs, but get very close. I have a dog that's distracting me. Hello, dog. Hello, dog. I'm so sorry. He's really good at getting tosses against walls, edges of the map, and then following that up quickly. I'm gonna give this dog a treat because he is harassing me. Hello. 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 Next up, we have the Unknown, another killer that has dropped a little bit since, since he has come out. The fact that survivors have learned the counterplay a little bit, he's a very good killer when it comes to punishing survivors during unhook and healing at the wrong places. But now survivors have slightly longer hook stages, which gives them a bit more leniency in here. And also some of his add-ons have been tweaked. On the one hand, his brown add-on that made him teleport really quickly has been nerfed a little bit, but made into base kit. This is like a slight nerf overall, but not too bad. And his two strongest add-ons that infect survivors at the start of the game and when they complete a janitor, especially that one, has been nerfed as well to have a downside. So this has relegated this killer to a slightly lower position in the tier list. Now, compared to other killers, the problem with the Unknown is that he is a little bit inconsistent, a little bit volatile. If you manage to land your hits, you do a weaken effect, and then the next one will damage. And you can do this to multiple survivors as well. So, as I mentioned, during unhooks and during moments of altruism, this can backfire horribly for survivors. But it also means that they can get away with a lot of things if they look at you and dispel this. Survivors that look at the killer will get rid of the weakened effect. So compared to some of the other killers, he's the only killer so far that has an effect like this is the Artist, right? If you shoot a survivor with your bird and then don't find the right follow-up, the bird gets removed, and then you're back to the start and you go through cooldowns and nothing gets done. The Unknown can have moments like this where you hit one survivor and they take you far away and they see you through some loop that is a little bit difficult to shoot over, and you go on chases that extend for a bit longer than they should. However, this aside, we have a killer that has an ability that can hit you in a lot of different ways. It's a little bit difficult, not super beginner friendly, but it's an ability that can hit you through walls, that can hit you over obstacles, that can hit from below a floor, that can hit you sometimes across the map if he has a little bit of elevation, and also the underrated ability of teleporting to his own hallucinations. Survivors that are diligent in removing these hallucinations or staying away from them if possible will be fine, but teams that don't will find it quite oppressive. Being able to teleport across the map enables a lot of perks, and I am surprised at the sheer variety of builds that are actually really effective on him. Overall, strong killer, but rather restrained by the fact that you have to hit survivors multiple times. That would be the main caveat, that you can sometimes have games where you don't fully get all of the value. He is as difficult to get value as some of the high tier killers, but the high tier the killers that are higher tier sometimes insta down you or sometimes damage you outright instead of that middle ground. Still though, one of my favorite killers and possibly the best design killer they've done in a very long time. moving on to the B tier. All of the killers that we have here, by the way, are not necessarily a lot weaker than the ones above, but they do have slightly more weaknesses, and they're not that much stronger always than the killers below. But what they do have in common, almost all of these killers, is that they actually test many things on the survivor. They put a certain amount of pressure on survivors, whether it is by forcing them to pick up items or deal with a power that affects multiple survivors at once, or like a very quick ability to escalate damage, such as Vecna or Huntress, if they make a big mistake. So these are killers that are a little bit more dependent on the survivor knowledge, and I think the first one, Vecna, is a great example. This is a killer that I also think has fallen off very slightly in the last few months, just because survivors begin to understand the counterplay, and also a few nerfs after release have finally set in place. He also received a change to his cooldowns that have made him a little bit easier to cycle through, but also have nerfed the duration of the hand. Overall, the mage hand that allowed him to pick up pallets ever since release, I think, has been only nerfed, because it was probably the most useful spell, I guess, in their stats. Anyway, so with Vecna, we have a killer with normal terror radius, normal stats, normal everything. That is good, that is fine. And then we have 4 spells. The Dispelling Sphere, that allows you to find survivors and disable some of their magical items. The Mage Hand, that allows you to block pallets from being dropped or pick them up. This is a bit of a double-edged blade. Sometimes you can pick up pallets that you really shouldn't and give them a second life. And unfortunately, you cannot use the Mage Hand to prevent pallet saves. But for the most part, if you use the hand right, it will get you hits here and there. Much like Doctor, that we'll talk about a little bit later, Vecna is one of those killers that can sometimes get hit even when every map is on the board, which not every killer can do. We then have the Skeletons, the Flight of the Damned. This is the most critical power of Vecna, in my opinion. If survivors know how to play around this power, the game becomes a lot harder. If survivors know when to vault, when not to, when to crouch, when not to, if they fall for... This is a power that you can spam from behind a wall, and if a survivor does not have like an instant reaction to crouching, they will get hit by it. So depending on how aware survivors are of how to play around this power, I think your game will become much easier or much harder. But either way, even at its worst, it is a power that allows you to zone. It is a power that allows you to hit multiple survivors sometimes. It is a power that with elevation can do a lot of tricky things. For example, if you are coming out from downstairs and they try to crouch, it's not going to work because you can use it on the middle of the stairs, right? And let's not forget that if you run a specific iridescent add-on, the power is on ground floor. So this is an add-on that requires you to specialize in it. But if you do spend the time to get really good with that add-on, which is the iridescent book, you will be able to hit survivors everywhere, and the counterplay, it's a bit, you require a bit more precision, but the counterplay begins to disappear, and that can be a little scary if you get good at that. Other notable add-ons for this killer include things like reducing cooldowns, making survivors deal with more trap chests that don't actually have items. Overall, in a lot of matches, survivors opening chests results in them not getting much in result. But there's also games where it's the opposite. In maps with multiple floors, like Midwich, if a survivor that you're chasing goes into a locker and disappears into another locker with the Hand of Vecna, that can actually be really crippling. And this is something that can really throw you off in endgames, where you're desperately trying to down one guy to then go pick up another and get your final 2 kills, and then one of them teleports to the other side of the map. That can be a little rough. So the items sometimes don't do much, sometimes can mess with you quite a bit, and it's a little bit difficult to stay aware of who has who and who can see your aura when you fly and so on. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty strong killer. If you specialize in using specific add-ons, I think he gets even better. And some perks on this killer that are not super useful on others actually are pretty nasty, such as Rapid Brutality, for example. Keep in mind that as of this patch, you have gained a new ability to survivors could basically prevent you from going through a window before. They can no longer do that, but windows and pallets are still relatively safe for survivors. If you fly over one of these places, the survivor can typically always vault back, so you don't have the ability to mind game survivors at windows. And get free hits the way Houndmaster or Dracula can. So he's a little bit more restrained there. Basically, you have a lot of tools that against average survivors are going to be horribly difficult on them. Against really good survivors, I think he falls off a little bit, but he still has enough tools and enough mobility and enough information gathering that if you use all of them, he still feels above average to me. A lot of little tricks, as I explained with Flight of the Dam. And I think this is, if you want to main one killer and don't mind using certain add-ons and learn.
Można to brać stronę, można. Będzie ciekawe, widzisz? Ale tak najlepiej po prostu nie da. Znaczy,
Mommy, this is a jest pieskiem. Ja no kierunek będzie to. Ja nie wiem, jak to było na perspektywie, właśnie to było na czas. Ono se přišel o ženu, když zpíval před její matkou. Ne?
Câmera para trás, não se perdeu nada. Acho que não era nada.
私はこの道義を貫き通す。
Só? Caramba.
私の動きをしっかり。
進み続ける者が勝つ。
この戦い、私全力で風よ解かれる力、我が刃と化せ。無駄な抵抗はやめなさい。手加減をし聖書を狩りが始まった。宿命の風は私が断ち切る。風より解かれる力、我が刃と化せ。 命の風は私が断ち切る。あなたはここへ逃げるね。獲物、逃げなさい、逃げなさい。あいつらを切り裂く。風より解かれる力、我が刃と化せ。宿命の風は私が断ち切る。全力。風より解かれる力、我が刃と化せ。手加減をしない。無駄な抵抗はやめなさい。聖書を狩りが始まった。宿命の風は私が断ち切る。すね、あいつ隙だらけよ。あなたの色、獲物、逃げなさい、逃げなさい。風より解かれる力、我が刃と化せ。狩りが始まった。無駄な抵抗はやめなさい。聖書を。狩りが始まった。無駄な抵抗はやめなさい。聖書は。宿命の風は私が断ち切る。風より解かれる力、我が刃と化せ。次に向かうわよ。この勝利が終幕ではないわ。
あらゆる責任は
さっさと片付けないとね。
哀れで無駄なあがきよ。生死の輪廻よ、冠を待つ。生死競争、安寧の時。さあ、永遠へと歩みなさい。哀れで無駄なあがきよ。生死の輪廻よ、冠をまとえ。生死競争、安寧の時。哀れでさあ、とは最後の情けです。生死の輪廻よ、冠をまとえ。生死競争、安寧の時。哀れで無駄なあがき。最後のさあ、
天才的なタッチ。
生死の輪廻よ、冠をまとえ。生死競争、安寧の時。小賢しい。哀れで無駄なあがき。さあ、永遠へと歩みなさい。九竜は生き続ける。小賢しい。生死の輪廻よ、冠をまとえ。生死競争、安寧の時。最後のなさあ、哀れで無駄なあがきよ。生死の輪廻よ、冠をまとえ。生死競争、安寧の時。最後の情けで哀れで無駄なあがきよ。九竜は生き続き。生死の輪廻よ、冠をまとえ。生死競争、安寧の時。 最後の情けです哀れで無駄な生死の輪廻よ冠をまとえ生死競争安寧の時小賢しい九龍の未来を共に見届けましょう
リストやるんです
それだな。
A minha oficina de nem